going to be about the inhale only to start. And so, this kind of makes noise. So, if you want to come stand beside me so you can't be seen, but maybe stand here. I'll block the camera. Maybe stand over here so you can see yourself in the mirror. Move this out of the way, and I'll face this way. Okay. So, when you inhale, I want you to have a little bit more space, and we've been talking about that. But the surprise party breath. Did I say those words to you before? A surprise party breath? Yeah. So that is what I want to talk about first, like how you can take the air in when you're trying to sing. And so I want to start from the bottom this time and go up instead of starting at the top. So at the bottom of your torso, you have your pelvic floor, or sometimes people call it the pelvic bowl. And it's, you know, a collection of muscles and tissues and tendons and things that help us maintain urinary continence, etc. And so thinking about urination is helpful when we're thinking about the pelvic floor. We have to contract or squeeze if we're trying to not pee accidentally, right? And so you can just imagine you're trying to do that and it feels like a tight squeezing feeling. Don't have to let go overboard, but there's like a little clenching of your muscles you could do. And then the opposite would be you could release your pelvic floor, which would be the feeling of like, okay, I'm going to let myself pee now. So you sort of like release the muscles downward. And at the same time, we have another muscle group here involved in breathing, which is the abdominal wall muscles. And that's a lot easier to find because it's right here in the front of your body. You can see it easily. And my belly button is right here. And like I put my hand usually like right above my belly button. And then I can think of releasing my abdominal wall like this, which makes my tummy pop out farther. Or I could contract my pelvic floor. And I'm doing that right now, and I'm not breathing. So you can release and contract those muscles in your abdominal wall in a way that is entirely unrelated to breathing, and that happens sometimes, and that's not helpful. So, but feeling the sensation of the contraction and the release is helpful. So now we could think of just not worrying about breathing, but at the same time try to release the abdominal wall and the pelvic floor. So the abdominal wall releases out and the pelvic floor releases down. So it's like release, and then we could contract at the same time. So when we contract the abdominal wall so the tummy goes, and we also contract the pelvic floor so the pelvic floor goes like, oop, don't pee. And another thing you can think about with the contraction is your tailbone, because if you breathe, we should feel a release even in our back. And I can't always feel this sensation, but sometimes, particularly like if I'm in bed and I do some breathing exercises and I maybe just woke up or I'm falling asleep and I'm really, really relaxed, I can feel my tailbone go, like just pop out. Not that much, just a tiny bit. It's very subtle, but I can feel the release when I inhale. And if you put your hands here on your lower back, like where you'd see somebody go, oh, like if they're pregnant, you should be able to, when you inhale, feel a gentle expansion in the muscles there in your lower back. And like this, you could try it at home, or you can try it right now if you want, but I'll show. If you sit down and you bend over like this and put your hands here and then inhale, well, all of the, you know, in my case, all of this belly fat is being squashed up here. It's like really, you can really feel the air come into your back. And then you can really feel the air leaving your back. But that is the most subtle sensation out of all of the sensations we're looking for. So if you want to sit down and try it, you can, but you can do it at home too. So let's think of adding the back in to the other two muscle groups. So we release the abdominal wall and the pelvic floor at the same time like this, and then we contract. And then we can think of, at the same time we release, we allow the back and even the tailbone or the spine, whatever is helpful for you to think of, release. And this you might have to inhale to find the feeling of the opening up of the tailbone. So I think of it almost like if I was opening scissors, or you know, like bellows that you use for a fireplace, where you open the bellows and the air rushes in to fill the space. So I think of that open this way. And then for the contraction, we'll think of, it's, and I'm exaggerating, don't do it this much, but just so you can see, it's like you're tucking your tailbone under a little bit, and like this has been described to me like if you're trying to zip up a pair of really tight pants, you kind of would do this motion. So we can think of adding the release and the contraction with the back in addition. These are really subtle movements, and so I have to exaggerate a little bit so you can see, and then if you go too far, then I'll try to help correct that. But so we release, and we'll release the back at the same time, and then we'll contract and zip up the blue jeans. So we release here and in the back, feeling open all the way down here, and contract. Don't even have to breathe. You can make the motion happen, right? And so the next thing we want to add in is the rib cage. If you put your hands here and you find the bottom of your ribs, you can feel the ribs ascend, and this you kind of do have to breathe to feel the effect. If you inhale, like an umbrella opening, your rib cage can go up as you fill up with air. And so we'll just think about that a little bit. We'll release to let the air in, release your tummy, release your pelvic floor at the same time, release the back and the tailbone at the same time. And now we're also going to think of, do we feel the rib cage opening up? And then just let the air out however you want. So you are empty, and then try again. And then just like let it out however. And so we want this to happen every time we inhale when we're singing, much faster and hopefully much less consciously at some point, but you have to think about it at first to get there. And so you can think of, like, I'm wearing a belt right now. Everywhere, if I was squeezing this belt tightly, everywhere the belt would be touching, I'm hoping to feel an expansion as I inhale. So I release the abdominal wall, release the pelvic floor, release the tailbone and the lower back, and let the ribs come up to inhale. And this is the idea of if you had a glass that was empty, and you put the glass under a faucet and you poured water into the glass, you would see the water go all the way down to the bottom of the cup, and then the water would begin to fill the cup up from the bottom to the top. That's what we want to happen when we breathe. Not actually, not physically, like your air goes into your lungs, not into your tummy, but like these are just mind games I can try to teach you to play with yourself. So you can make your body feel and do what we want. We have to use these words and mental pictures to evoke certain behaviors from the body when we're singing, because like it's not like piano where I can be like, oh, your knuckles are flat, curve them like this, and you're like, oh, like this, and I'm like, yes, like that. I can't see your lungs, I can't see your larynx, so we have to evoke. Voice is a weird discipline.
Every breath involves all of those muscles. Every single one.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're singing, yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
And so last time we talked more about the shape on top, and you kind of probably remember that, right? We open in the top part of the vocal tract. And that should be the cause, the surprise party breath shape, we yawn open, and as a result we feel expansion in the front and back, the lift of the ribs, and the pelvic floor descends all at once. You walk into the surprise party, you feel so happy, and you go, And you feel all this expansion down here, but the chest and the shoulders don't really move. They just don't need to. As opposed to, you can hear the sound of the inhale is much more high pitched, right? And you could see my chest went up. And you can hear in my voice when I'm speaking that my voice sounds strained and a little crackly, right? Especially at the beginning of my phonation when my air is really full up here. So that's too much air. I don't need that much. And taking the air in that way is not helpful. So try doing that one time. Breathe so that your chest goes up and your shoulders go up too. And yeah, you see how that feels. It feels tight, right? Mm-hmm. And tight is almost always a bad sensation when you're singing. The only time I would say tightness could feel good when you're singing is if you're thinking of stretching your vocal tract tight because you're opening the back of your throat. So that could feel like your tissues are being stretched taut to make more space. But almost always tightness is going to be bad when you're singing, right? A tight sound or a tight sensation. So let's try a couple more of those. Open in the front and then open the back of your throat like the straight pipe breathing exercise, lots of space, and the air just falls all the way down like the water in the glass. Let the water go all the way to the bottom and then fill up from the bottom to the top. You walk into the surprise party and you're so happy. And the inhale is either this low-pitched sound you're hearing from me because the throat is so open, or silent, maybe. It should sound kind of like how you inhale if you're yawning. And it should kind of look similar to a yawn as well. Mm-hmm. And so now let's talk about the exhale, which is the opposite of everything for the inhale, right? So we will contract the pelvic floor. We will let the tailbone tuck a little bit, like we're zipping up the tight blue jeans. We'll let the tummy contract, and we'll let the rib cage soften back into its original position. And that one element I always like to say is a little bit controversial because in, like, say, classical singing technique, you're supposed to keep the rib cage expanded and not let the rib cage soften as you exhale. But I don't teach that. I teach to let, I don't think it's very natural, and I think it can lead to some unnecessary problems without much in the way of benefit. That's my opinion. So, but you know, if you ever took lessons with somebody else in the future, you might hear some different things about breathing. These are my opinions. So let's try again. We'll inhale, and then we release to inhale, and then we contract to exhale, open everything up. Keep doing that, and I'm going to talk while you're doing it. After the air is out, release your abdominal wall, pelvic floor, back, tailbone, contract everything. And then I'll show you this really quick too. You can try it right now, or you can try it at home. Okay, I think you can kind of see. So I love to do this, particularly for the pelvic floor feeling on all fours, because you can feel the gravity now pulling the direction that you need to move when you release. So when you release, your tummy moves down now, and you can feel the gravity really pull, like you can really feel the openness. And then when you contract, you have to push against the gravity, or I guess pull really. And you can really feel the tailbone, the open, close, and you can also feel the pelvic floor contraction, because you can think of like, almost like if you were shooting yourself forward like a rocket. You inhale, open, so I don't know if you can see the movement here, but it's subtle, but moving your body into some of those different positions can really help you feel the sensations in a very clear way. And that particular on all fours with the pelvic floor release and contraction really powered my phrasing when I discovered that. You learn about that if you have a baby. I had to go to pelvic floor therapy, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to transform my breathing for my voice students because the way like they really know about how all those muscles work, and it's just fascinating. And I was like, I had this song where I was really struggling to get I was doing breathing exercises, but to get the phrases to last long enough. And when I started doing, I added those in some repetitions of on all fours, and I got through my phrases. Something about that contraction of the pelvic floor really can like power your air through those long phrases.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we'll try.
On the exhale.
Yes.
On the exhale.
Yeah.
Right. Because
you contract on the exhale.
Contract on the exhale.
And probably the idea of the release.
Oh, just to control the release of air as you sing the phrase. Okay.
But probably also the idea of a more full release, like really down low to the bottom. Like you'll hear teachers sometimes say, imagine you're breathing into your toes. So we could try that now too. Not physically possible, but like I say, it's a mind game. And you can feel yourself breathing into your toes if you think about it. So let's try a couple more. You walk into the party and you're like, feel it all the way to the bottom of your toes. Now, the next thing I want you to think about is that the stretched open feeling in the back, the straight pipe feeling where like the back feels like you're yawning, like your throat's a big glass pipe a truck could drive down, or a fly could just like fly down your throat because everything is so open. There's so much space back there. Do you feel that in the back of your throat? You could yawn once and actually feel how a yawn feels.
Yeah, just the openness.
Yeah, do you have any other adjective you could use other than open to describe the sensation in the back of your throat when you're finding that?
I guess just full.
Full?
Airy.
Mm-hmm. I think of the word stretch because I feel all the tissues stretched, taut. And so I want you to maintain that sensation of stretched open in the back when you bring your lips into the oo vowel shape to exhale for the release of the candle blow. Okay, so we open to inhale, keep the space open, still feel the vocal tract stretch open in the back as you're exhaling and closing the front of the vocal tract. Yeah, and keep the tip of your tongue down. Might as well go ahead
and
and
focus on the back. Okay.
And we release. And you can even hear in your exhale, the sound of the air is different when you keep the open, because here's the open space. As opposed to, you hear how the pitch is higher because I constricted the space. Did you hear that?
I didn't realize it was a pitch. I thought it just sounded more wispy, I guess, the second time.
Yeah, so it's like a lower pitch sound as opposed to
Pay attention to that.
a tighter
So
space makes
right.
a higher pitch. Yeah, you
So
can
they'll know it's
hear.
right.
You
Okay.
can hear if it's right. I often can tell if my student will sound the right way or get to the end of the phrase in the right way before they begin singing, because I can hear from the inhale. Because the inhale sounds like they're sucking or squeezing the air in, forcing the air in, instead of releasing and allowing the air in, because you just created an open space in the back of your mouth.
Okay.
So it's a really different way of getting the air in.
Okay.
We don't ever want to suck the air in. We want to open and allow the air to just like rush in. Did I talk to you about like the air pressure the last time? So like if you take an empty cup again and you push the empty cup underwater, once the cup is submerged, water will rush to fill the empty space in the cup. And that's because of water pressure. The pressure will force into the open space. Well, we're surrounded by air pressure because air has weight. But we can't see the air, so it's harder to visualize. But if we make an open space by opening our mouth and our throat, the air will rush inside of us, just like the water would rush into the cup submerged underwater. And we want to just allow that to happen all the way down and then gently contract the air out while we keep the expansion in the back. And then this is the final step, which is adding the siren in, because instead of just exhaling the air out, we want to keep this space open and then add the siren. But before we do that, let's just do a couple more all the way through the candle blow with the stretched open feeling in the back. We release all the way around. There actually is a candle there. You could try to make the flame flicker. It's okay if you blow it out. Are you able to feel the openness in the back as you exhale? Stay stretched open. And then once you feel that you can find that sensation, not before, take however much time you need, let's try adding the siren in. And so the only thing that's going to change is we're going to phonate instead of exhaling. And make sure you take some drinks before you do, because breathing exercise do really dry out your mucosal membrane, and we got to do the breathing exercises to sing, but better hydrate again afterwards. And so we will do the same kind of inhale, release, 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 and then when we contract, instead of exhaling, we just bring our corners together into an U shape. Make sure the tip of the tongue is pressed against the roots of the lower teeth, and our teeth are separated all the way around. No teeth touching, which should be true always in life unless you're chewing, really. If your teeth are touching, that's usually not a good thing. But especially with singing, we want to have as much space between our teeth as we can, which is just another way of thinking of space. And so once we have that shape, we just go into a siren, starting with the lowest pitch we can hit, sliding all the way up to the highest and coming back down. And we want to keep that openness in the back, just like we tried to keep that for the exhale. We'll try to keep it for the siren.
Okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah, if you don't feel comfortable actually phonating right now, it's okay. I'm still getting over my cold, so I'll probably have a few breaks. Sorry. And you can hear, I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in voice. I've been teaching like so many students since 2006 every week. And it's now 2025. So like I have a lot of experience with this, right? Mm-hmm. But you can probably hear, maybe not, but I'm like really thinking and working out things as I'm going. It's not, and today is going to be rougher than normal because like I'm saying, my vocal health is not in a great place right now, unfortunately. But even if it was a good day, I'm still gonna, I don't know if you heard me, like,
you were trying to blend.
Yeah, the blending. Yeah, I'm like, oh, it feels a little fuzzy here. My tone is a little diffused, so I'm going to slow down and maintain the connection. And if it sounds weird, if I have to like adjust my vowel shape to be more open and it's like, oh, that was too open and that sounded weird, it's fine. This is a vocal exercise. I'm not ever going to stand on a stage and like do this while people are watching so they can applaud afterwards. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not going to sound appealing ever. That's not the point. It's an exercise. And so I'll be like, okay, that was a little rough. I'm going to do it again and see if I can get a smoother blend. And so I think of like those deals you sometimes see at the kind of novelty stores at the mall. It's like a tube and there's like liquid on top that's maybe pink and liquid on the bottom that's maybe blue. In my mind, that's kind of what it looks like. And you know how you can like flip them and they swirl together? So I kind of think of something like that when visually in my mind when I'm thinking of blending during a siren or in a song as well. So but maybe a little thicker than water, like a little bit more viscosity. But I think of like if I'm going up, I'm looking for the light, bright pink color of my head voice and I'm trying to swirl it down into the like strong blue part of my chest voice where I am. So I'm trying to like swirl the head voice down into the chest voice as soon as I can find it. I'm like looking for it to like swirl it in. So as I go up, and then when I'm coming down, I'm like looking for the blue and like trying to swirl that up into my head voice right away. And I don't know if that just sounds like garbled nonsense or if that kind of makes sense at all.
No, it makes sense. It's just I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, so
like
I'm just telling you that so you can think
of the
about,
image as I'm trying
yeah,
to chase it.
if it's helpful. That might not be the thing that does it for you, but so I'm going to be thinking about that as I'm trying to blend during the siren. And the thing to do if the blend is difficult, I can feel like, oh, I'm reaching. You're feeling that, right? Like you reach the end of the lower register, and it's like, oh no,
what now?
I need to get up here somehow. How do I do it? So when I feel that coming, I will slow down and lighten up. So slowing down means I'm not going to ascend as quickly. So I have more time to be like to make those little adjustments.
So don't push through.
No, because then you'll have a break.
Yep.
And you already can sing with the break. Sometimes singing with the break or like exploiting the break, like showing the difference. Sometimes that's a desirable, like if you're yodeling or certain pop songs, you'll hear people like, oh yeah, it's so great, right? Like you'll hear them like deliberately highlight the difference between the two registers. But you already can hear that you have a big difference between. So we're trying to do something you can't do yet, which is blend smoothly, which is the challenge for most beginning female singers with a high or medium high voice type. Okay, so so listen again and see if you can kind of hear me making those adjustments. Another thing I think about, which this really only applies on the way down, but it kind of, I think the same kind of thoughts as I'm going up. Oh, my voice is so bad right now. But like, I don't know if you ever saw those little deals. They used to sell them at craft fairs. My grandma had one. They were like wooden rectangle blocks, like maybe about this big, and they had 2 lines of ribbon down the row, and you like flip the one block, and then all the blocks go flip, 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 flip to the bottom.
Never heard of that.
Well, anyways, I kind of will think of that. It's like flip, 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 flip. It's like a spiraling kind of motion. So all of those thoughts. And so I'll breathe in, try to keep the space, and then I will begin phonating and try to blend my register smoothly as I can. And you just have to accept if you have a cold or something, it's not going to go as well. It's fine. And did you hear that little crackle on at the bottom, almost at the bottom? And then you heard it, and an interruption in my phonation at the top, which if you can't maintain a smooth woo, woo, woo with your head voice, that's usually indicative of inflammation in your vocal folds, which I definitely am experiencing right now. But yeah, so do you have any question?
No, I'll just watch it. I'll just watch it
Sorry,
again and think about it.
it's so much to think about, and but you have to practice it slowly so you can feel it, and then you'll get faster over time.
So that's why I've been having so many challenges.
It's very challenging.
That makes sense. That's why. Okay. All right.
It's 500 things on the checklist for an inhale alone. Like,
well,
sorry.
I don't know if it's that much, but yeah.
It feels like a lot, though.
It's a lot.
Oh,
I will watch
this woman is proving that singers are actually just magical. I always say being a voice teacher is sort of like being a witch. It feels like that. I never feel like that with